It's your girl, the grown woman gamer, coming at you. And today I'm going to talk about something that is very serious. We all, well, many of us have seen the video of a man in Georgia. His name is Ahmaud Arbery. He left his home for a jog, 25-year-old black man, unarmed, and two vicious, racist, predatory degenerates hunted him down and killed him in cold blooded murder. And I don't care what anyone says. I know that everyone has a right to a jury trial, but I also have a right to make my own assessment. And for all accounts that I've seen, there's no disputing what I just said. And anyone that wants to, go for it. But at the end of the day, there's nothing that anyone can say to me that will make me feel any differently than that. Um, and finally, they arrested these two men. But I think this occurred on February the 23rd. It's now May, and they've finally arrested the two predators in this case, which is a good thing. But I'm just like, come on, man. If those were two black men who accosted a white male jogger who's running through their neighborhood, they would have been arrested. They would have been put up on charges, and they probably wouldn't have even got bail to get out and be with their families until they got a trial. So this is just one more example of how, you know, we have come further than, times in the past, but at the end of the day, that type of violence is still perpetuated against African Americans and black people in this country. And we have not healed our country of racism. And it's high time that people who do these types of things are held accountable on both a federal and a state level. So that's an aside. But today, what I'm going to talk about a little bit is Jason Whitlock. I've been wanting to make a video on this man for a very long time, and for whatever reason, I have not. But today, I got time. This guy has made his career putting down athletes, primarily black male athletes. And he's hypercritical of black male athletes. He does not have the same energy for white athletes who may do the exact same things as some of these brothers. And he just takes things and twists it and spins a narrative that is ridiculous. It's uninformed. It's ill-advised. I could go on for days talking about or characterizing the nature of his reaction to a lot of things that certain black male athletes do. Today I'm going to focus on LeBron James. I know that Jason Whitlock does not have a great deal of respect for LeBron for some reason. The reason I don't fully understand, because I have not followed Jason Whitlock throughout his entire career. It's only many of the incendiary comments that he's had that have given me more visibility into his, if you want to call it journalism, or his commentary. And LeBron, in the last few days, responded to the same incident that we all, or many of us, have seen. And he observed that, black people are hunted and preyed upon, that he was outraged, that just doing normal things and trying to live our normal lives, we often face violence or the threat of violence. And he expressed his condolences to the victim's family. And he did this on a public platform on Twitter. And Jason Whitlock's response was that LeBron was using this as an opportunity to further his brand, that he was using this as an opportunity to promote his brand as something that's, I guess, worth more value socially than Michael Jordan's, and that he is coming from a place of emotion and not reason. Now, I'm going to break down each part of each part of Jason Whitlock's response. The first thing I want to address is the emotion comment, because this to me is the most obvious how how could anyone who has love for their people, who feels kinship on any level with this black man just going out for a jog, not have an emotional reaction to the fact that he was shot in cold-blooded murder in the middle of the street like an animal? How could you not react emotionally to that? Unless you're some sort of sociopath, you're going to have an emotional reaction, because guess what? That could easily be our cousin, our brother, our dad, ourself. And when we see something like that happen, and we are constantly bombarded with these images, which I mean, I could do a whole talk back on that alone. The fact that they love putting these videos of black folks dying in the middle of the street on TV. It's I'm not saying it's meant for entertainment. And on the one hand, it is good because sometimes we can't get justice unless people can see these things with their own two eyes. But at the end of the day, it's traumatic to just be bombarded with such violent images. For Jason Whitlock to presume that it's irrational or illogical or somehow immature to have an emotional reaction to that is just absurd. Point blank, period. What do you feel when you see that? And where do you feel it? In fact, for someone to respond with some sort of cold, calculated, rational response to something like that indicates that there might be something wrong with them. LeBron James is a wealthy man. He's a superstar athlete. He's an iconic basketball player. In my opinion, he's the best active player in the world. And he right now is one of the most culturally significant athletes living. For him to leverage his platform to bring awareness to what happened to this man means that a lot of people who essentially may not be interested in knowing what happened will now know what happens because they follow him. And the more people that know, the more likely there will be a galvanized effort behind attempting to get this man justice, and perhaps the people that are involved in the legislative, or I'm sorry, the judicial process for making sure that this man and his family get justice will feel more pressure to do what's right rather than do the same old, which is protect white men and white wealth. LeBron James is still a black man. At the end of the day, he's still a black man raising black sons. And he's still a man who came from very humble beginnings. So how could he not feel a compelling urge to say something or speak up? And however much or little value you place on someone's social media response, that's neither here nor there. Because as a human being, there are many of us who feel these intense emotions around incidents like this, and that is natural, and it's okay to express that. It's just one more instance of people trying to tell a black man not to have feelings or emotions and not to express them. The second thing I want to do is address this whole idea that perhaps LeBron is responding as some type of reaction to a comparison between him and Michael Jordan. For years, LeBron James has responded or reacted to things that happen in the black community. He's done it through his actions, he's done it through his words, he's done it through his platform, and he's also done it through his money. He has a multifaceted interest in an approach, rather, to addressing inequities faced by poor people and particularly African Americans, and I'm going to say even more specifically people living in Cleveland, Ohio, and living where he grew up. And I think that's in large part due to the fact that he feels connected because he knows what it was like to grow up as a young African American man without his father present in his life. And he spoke about this, how he always wanted to hold himself to a higher standard, and he feels a level of accountability, that he understands that with all of what he's been given, both genetically and both through the game of basketball, the financial windfall that's come to him and his family, that he sees that not as some level of he's not approaching with a level of entitlement. He sees it as a responsibility. He sees that there is a responsibility that comes with all of that, and he has never shied away from the moment on the basketball court and off the basketball court. He's not perfect, and I've said in many instances that I am a huge fan of him, both on and off the court. But I'm not going to stand here and or sit here and say that he's perfect. But I am saying that it's not inconsistent with who he's been that he would speak on this. So to say that this is like some engineered reaction to how Michael Jordan responds to things so he can elevate his brand above Michael Jordan's, what does it have to do with Michael Jordan? Does Jason Whitlock really believe that that LeBron James was sitting there like, how can I get a one up on Michael Jordan? This black man just got shot in the middle of the street. This is my chance. Really? For real? It's unbelievable. One of the worst things that I've seen and or heard Jason Whitlock do was when he was talking about Antonio Brown, and he was having a discussion in the midst of some rape and sexual assault allegations that were levied or leveraged against Antonio Brown. And somehow he found that there was a connection between whatever narcissism or sociopathy or however he framed it that he attached to Antonio Brown. And he said, that's how LeBron James is too. I see the same thing with him. LeBron James has never been convicted or even accused of any crime that I know of. No female or male, for that matter, has come out and said that LeBron James approached them inappropriately. He has been committed to his family, committed to the people that he supports with his philanthropic and charitable efforts. And regardless of how he may be in private, for all accounts, the way that he's carried himself as a man has been nothing less than classy and respectable. And when I say that, people might talk about stupid stuff like, oh, if he curses in an interview or if he's ever had an immature response in a press junket. To me, those things are so small compared to the larger contributions that he's had in individual humans' lives and the commitment that he has to the children that attend his school and the millions of dollars that he's invested in families to educate people and feed people and lift people up, and the general uplift that he's had for his circle of friends to lift them up with him and not leave his friends behind. I mean, he seems like a good brother. We will never know unless you have an intimate relationship with him. You don't really know who he is, but all we can go based on is the man's actions in public and the things that we learn about him in public. And by and large, 97% of what you hear about this brother is good. So what's the value in tearing him down? I even remember there was a moment when he was getting excited for his son when he was playing basketball, and somehow Jason Whitlock found fault in that. To me, it's the height of hypocrisy. He's talking about LeBron using this black man's death to elevate his brand. But what on God's green earth is Jason Whitlock doing in general in his career except using LeBron and people like LeBron who have high visibility to increase visibility to his brand? Nobody even cares about Jason Whitlock unless he's talking about LeBron or Kobe or one of these other people. Tom Brady just came out and said we need to have a federal investigation into this shooting. Is Tom Brady trying to big up or build up his brand by speaking about this? What's the difference? Come on, Jason. What's the difference? I'm tired. I'm going to name Jason Whitlock for exactly what he is. He's a coon ass nigga. That's what he is. Jason Whitlock is a coon ass nigga. He is a coon ass nigga. He is a tool of white capitalism. He doesn't deserve the platform that he has because he's never played a professional sport. His insight into most things that I've heard him speak about is amateur and intermediary at best. And there are much more interesting people who could carry their own rather than building their whole brand off of someone else using weird ass hateful tactics that just expose you for being insecure and a peon of a man. And that's how I feel about that coon ass nigga. So that's all I gotta say. I'm tired. I'm not here for it. I comment on sports. Every time I hear Jason Whitlock say some stupid stuff, I say to myself I'm gonna make a video. But in this case, I had to. I mean it. There's nothing that he could do short of actually taking responsibility for the fact that the things that he's saying are wrong. And nobody should listen to anything he has to say. Because if you're watching him for the sports commentary, there are much more interesting people who have the same stuff to say and can do it in a much more nuanced fashion. So that's it. I love you guys. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you guys following my channel. I love you guys. Please stay safe, and I will be back. And rest in peace. I pray that this man's family have the peace and grace and the immense comfort that they will need in a time like this. I'm out.